If this is what the future of America's major cities is going to look like, we are in big trouble. Michael Schneider reports, "How could we have allowed things to deteriorate this badly? For a moment, I want you to imagine that you have just arrived in a major city in a foreign country. Unfortunately, instead of the shiny new buildings and beautiful homes that you expect to see, there is trash, filth, and the sound of police sirens everywhere that you go. After walking a few blocks, you stumble upon one of the dozens of open-air drug markets freely operating in the particular city, many addicts lying on the ground wherever they suddenly passed out, others visible gaping wounds are staggering around like zombies, and you even spot one enterprising addict that has decided to relieve himself in the middle of the street. Of course, there are used needles scattered everywhere, and you try to not to step on them. You decide that it's time to leave, but it's already too late because protesters behind you and in front of you have started to clash with the police, and moments later, police cars are on fire, tear gas everywhere in the air. Thankfully, you're able to scramble to safety, and eventually you find yourself back to your hotel room and lock the door. When you turn on the news, you see that what they're saying about the chaos in the streets. You're amazed to discover that it's being reported that the protests were mostly peaceful and that everything is just fine. Sadly, what I have just detailed is not a description of a major city in a foreign land. Rather, it's a description of what daily life is now like in many of the largest cities here in the United States. For example, just consider what conditions are currently like in the center of Philadelphia. An extremely potent drug known as on the street as trank is causing hordes of addicts to literally wander around like zombies. Doctors in Philadelphia have been given new guidance to help them deal with an influx of patients addicted to animal tranquilizer xylazine, known on the streets as trank. It's called xylazine, Xylazine. An outreach charity is warning that the drug, a muscle relaxant intended for larger animals like horses, is leaving users unable to walk and with gaping wounds. Philadelphia has become the epicenter for xylazine, which has rapidly made its way into the city's drug supply as a cheap and very potent cutting agent. One neighborhood in Philadelphia in particular has become world famous for this type of market. Operating there, for some reason, authorities refuse to shut it down. So the addicts are shooting it up in broad daylight right now. Many of them literally have raw, gaping wounds in desperate need of medical attention. The Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia, known as ground zero for the city's epidemic of this, is in crisis due to widespread abuse of animal tranquilizer called xylazine. They're shooting it up in broad daylight, hunched over in a stupor, or passed out in the streets. And many have raw, gaping wounds in desperate need of medical attention, and there are needles, syringes, garbage littered across the sidewalks. "I've never seen human beings remain in these kinds of conditions," said Sarah Laurel, who runs outreach organization Savage Sisters. Yes, it's really happening in the city of Benjamin Franklin, Philadelphia. And what would he think about all this if he could see us today? At this point, a whopping 90% of heroin in Philly contains trank, and one study has found that the drug has already spread to 36 states and D.C. And now more than 90% of the heroin found in Philadelphia contains this xylazine. A June study found the drug has spread to 36 states and D.C. It's also known as trank, causing a blackout stupor. It also leads to skin damage so severe it resembles chemical burns, plus deep festering wounds that frequently result in amputations. Some cities have decided that the one way to deal with this drug crisis is to start legalizing some of the less potent drugs. But what the politicians did not anticipate is that the illegal trade would continue to operate alongside the legal trade. In fact, at this point, the number of unlicensed marijuana stores in New York City far exceeds the number of licensed stores. It's hard to miss the marijuana shops on almost every block in New York City. According to NYPD, more than 1,300 illegal marijuana stores are selling pot without a license. I admit I don't think we ever talked about this scenario happening State Senator Liz Kruger said. And as drugs, crimes, violence, chaos take over in the largest cities, some big corporations are deciding that now's the time to move out. For instance, we just learned that the city of Seattle has just lost its downtown Nike flagship store and multiplex movie theater. Crime-ridden Seattle has lost its downtown Nike flagship store and multiplex movie theater as crime runs rampant and the number of homeless people dying soars. The Rain City's downtown area suffered its latest blow on Friday when the popular Nike store located at the corner of 6th Avenue and Pike Street shut its doors for good. Nike's exit came right after Regal Cinemas announced it would reject the lease of the Meridian 16 multiplex located on 7th Avenue and Pike Street. Many years ago, my wife and I, he said, visited downtown Seattle during the middle of the day. It was a little sketchy, but we watched our backs and stayed out of trouble. Sadly, I would not make a similar trip today, he says. And if you go into the heart of many of our major cities at night, you are literally taking your life into your own hands. Over the weekend, violent clashes in Atlanta between police and Antifa activists made headlines all over the nation. This sort of thing has become increasingly common, but we keep being told that all of this is perfectly normal. And even though we are literally watching footage of police vehicle after that Antifa had set on fire, mainstream media just keeps insisting that what we were witnessing in Atlanta were mostly peaceful protests. Yes, it was also very peaceful, so there is absolutely nothing to be concerned about. In fact, if you live in Atlanta, you may want to try one of the downtown restaurants for a late dinner tonight. To me, the kicker was that some of the rioters that were arrested actually had explosives on them. Now, since there are leftist protesters, they have likely already been released on bail, and the charges against them probably quietly dropped in a few weeks when nobody will notice. But the even bigger story is how rapidly our society is degenerating right now. We've been warned for years that our major cities were degenerating into crime-ridden, drug-infested hellholes, and at this point, no rational person can deny what is happening. The United States was once a beacon of light for the rest of the world, but now we have become a cautionary tale. We are showing everyone precisely what not to do, and conditions in our streets just continue to get even worse with each passing day. It's finally here, Michael's new book entitled End Times, now available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. About the author, he says, my name is Michael Schneider. My brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of my books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, and of the American Dream and the most important news, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely great help. These are such troubled times, and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is by Michael Schneider on The End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.